depends on a lot of things that come well before we'd have to address it.
So, and you've explained this before, but you can't prohibit the transport or the ownership of it.
Correct.
So if somebody gets it somewhere else, not our problem.
Correct.
But this is all about the sale of it.
This is all about establishing a business within the city limits. And at this point, we're saying we're putting a moratorium on that statute being implemented for that
Perfect.
purpose.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, question then is, so it's one license, but can they have a St. James location and a Medelia, or is it just one location per license?
I'd have to dig. That's deep in the statute. The short answer would be one license, one location.
Okay.
That's my best guess based on, this is a 200+ page bill, and I've probably read about 140 of those pages, and so one license, much like a liquor license,
yeah.
it's very similar in its structure, except that it's far more complicated and expensive to obtain this licensure than it is a liquor license. The legislature's put so many roadblocks. The likelihood that someone in this area of the world would have the means to go through that process is, I think, it would be fairly unlikely and not impossible, but this wouldn't necessarily be the market share, so to speak, for putting an establishment. That was just my 2 cents on it. The likelihood of that happening, I think, is unlikely, at least as the statute's written currently. It's going to be very challenging for anyone that's not a very large S corporation that doesn't already do this and doesn't have the ability to hire the lawyers to help them navigate the process. Because it was mind-numbing to read all of the different regulations and things and standards and procedures that they have to get through in order to actually get the licensure. Not, buy the building and fill it up with the product, but just to say I can do that.
So I have a question for you, just so I understand the problem. Why did you ask if they could have a license in different places?
Well, the only reason why I was asking that is, they have one company that's allowed to sell in our county, but they have a St. James location and now a Medelia location. So say they choose St. James as their selling, their licensing facility, but then they open up a shop in Medelia as well.
I believe that if they're open in a different location, the likelihood would be that they'd have to have a separate licensure that would
just get a pot truck.
Yeah, that I know for 100% certain.
That's not available.
They've been selling it out of the down the road.
No ice cream truck mentality.
That's good to know. Truck.
Yeah.
All right, that was my wondering.
So to be clear, even if they own the license in St. James, if we here have this moratorium, that doesn't mean they can sell here. Right?
They can't specifically sell here, assuming that the county didn't also have the same moratorium. They could sell it there, and presumably someone could possess it in the city of Medelia.
So possession and selling to me are two different things.
Correct.
Because we can't stop the possession.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the bigger thing that law enforcement is going to struggle with is something that happened over in Winnebago, where we have people that have a couple too many plants beyond the statute. That's going to be a bigger enforcement issue than regulation. That's my opinion.
The things that I'm seeing right now too is, what is a licensed bag or its container that it came from the store, because there is no licensed dealer. So how do we know that if somebody didn't grow it at home and they're just transporting it?
I think that's a really good question, especially if they claim that they took it out of the container and that it wasn't, still something that's coming from Mexico. That's a harder thing to prove, I think, for a prosecutor at this point, given the status of the law. But I would suggest to you that there will be licensed purveyors here in the next few months, in my opinion, because I saw Rise Dispensary, which was the medical dispensary in Mankato, which relocated their facility to a much larger, what I would call, took one of the kind of a shopping, like, I can't remember what storefront it was, but more of a regular storefront type place as opposed to just kind of a hole in the wall area. And there's about 3 new smoke shops in Mankato that I'm almost certain are going to cater to that product. Not to mention the places that were already selling CBD products before, and then with the sneaky law that passed that legalized marijuana but didn't, where some of those THC products are actually still being sold currently under that change from the last legislative session. So, yeah, it's a challenge for law enforcement. I certainly recognize that. I understand why law enforcement's opposed to the passage of these laws, and we face challenges, but we'll figure it out.
I think there's actually a storefront or place in Lake Crystal right now that's open too.
No, just out of the blue in St. James, there happened to be a smoke shop right around the corner of Armstrong and First Avenue that put a sign up the other day that had did not come into the city yet or nothing like that for any type of license. So don't want to wish it upon somebody else, but hopefully it stays over there.
No, I think you're exactly
They
right.
have the same ordinance though as well in St. James, so I don't know if they ever passed their moratorium. But I
I'll
thought
have to. I'll reach out to Steve Sunday and see if they pass something.
I'd be curious.
What floors me is all the challenges we're facing right now, as a community, as a state, as a nation, and we're talking about how can you get marijuana?
Well, I think realistically, if the federal government would actually do something on the matter, then it would make all of it much easier for everyone. The problem is that you have the federal government sitting on their hands, and it prevents certain regulations that would relieve the state from some of the responsibilities that they're actually having to take on in the legalization process. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. The feds, I mean, as much as I like to see the federal government do absolutely nothing, on this point I would like to see them change the schedule for the drug so that we can properly address it from a criminal standpoint, from, Schedule 1 to, and the DHS has recommended that. And then, just the FDA could be dealing with this. There could be a federal tax. We're $30+ trillion in debt. Maybe this could put a dent in that, although the legislature likes to just spend the extra money anyways and not pay down the debt like every other family in America, right? So, I don't know. There's solutions to problems. It's just that we don't have pragmatists in office. We have politicians. So.
On all of that, are we okay with what we are proposing tonight from the council?
I'd say so.
The moratorium?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we had discussed this back, I believe, in late March or early April when the bill was pending, and we just need to
Yeah.
kind of put the date on it, the timeline. There's nothing really that's changed in the language of the proposed ordinance since that meeting back then.
So would it be from moratorium from today or from January 1st?
Well, from the date that we pass the ordinance, which is to say that it gets its second reading, then from that point forward for 12 months, and the statute allows for an additional extension for 6 months for good cause shown. And you could, I think,
So,
unless
So
somebody
we're
really
talking,
challenged
we're
it,
buying even more time.
So-
it depends on where we're at. We have to be making progress.
so basically, because I have to post it, it takes 30 days. So we're looking at an effective date of April 1st, 2024 to April 1st of 2025.
Okay.
And that's actually stated in the ordinance that I sent out.
So last question, not to go down this rabbit hole, but I have to go down this rabbit hole. Very sorry. So do we put this on a ballot next fall?
What do you mean?
So for the city to vote on whether or not they want to allow this at all, and then we kill it once and for all?
I don't think that we can undo what the legislature has done.
Okay, so
So basically,
do
what
we
you
become a blue city?
drive city or whatever,
Yeah.
like they did in
Better stated,
Omaha.
better stated.
Yeah, I mean, I could look at what they do in the parishes in Louisiana and some of the counties, and
Georgia,
Alabama,
Alabama.
and Georgia, as far as dry counties are concerned, and how they.
That's the
But
only
I guess
thing
my
can
question is,
think of,
if the
right?
city as a whole decides this is not what we want, the city as a whole, the voters decide this is not what we want, and they vote it down, can we do that? And maybe that's not a question we can answer tonight.
You got, the short answer to that is I don't think it would be enforceable. And I guess the scope of your quote unquote voting it down is enough, would be the first question that I'd ask you is, when you say you're voting it down, or that the city is voting it down, would you be suggesting that they wouldn't allow marijuana to be possessed?
No.
Oh, just to be sold?
Yeah, you were very clear on that. So I'm tracking on that. The possession and the transportation, we can't overdo that.
I don't think it'll become
But
an issue.
we could say you can't sell it here.
But there's only going to be one license allowed in the
Yeah.
entire county.
Or in the or whatever population or
Yeah, but
however
we
it's
get in front of
district
that.
out.
For us, it would be just the county.
And at that time that is actually comes to the table, the council can actually say no.
But
Okay.
the other thing
answers
is,
my question.
You-
Yes, I completely
Because
track.
just like a liquor license, you can say no to a liquor license.
That was my, since he took it down the whole, could we make it that the only person, like our liquor store in the city, the only people that can sell liquor is,
Well, that's by state statute. I mean, that because we hold.
That's an
municipal
interesting,
liquor.
actually, an interesting hook to come up with the solution that
But you're
Len is
talking
saying-
about-
Len is suggesting.
I don't know that we'd ever want to necessarily vote it out completely anyway, because of the fact that what if it's a process? What if it's a processing plant that's going to bring in 25 jobs?
well, the
It's
process
marijuana. This is a
different than
bad
sale.
idea.
My guess is you won't be able
I'm
to
just
sell it
saying.
in the same place to process.
Well, that's like saying a brewery is a bad idea
No,
because
no.
of the way. I mean, that's
I think
the
that- I
same
think it's-
type of
yeah,
situation
business
you're
that-
talking about.
The business that's selling it versus cultivating it, I mean, they can do both technically. But yeah, I mean, many of these places are become, the corporations have multiple employees running the show. So, Colorado, Arizona.
The only issue though is, from what I heard out there, is the banking system. They don't use banks.
Yeah,
It's all
that
safes.
goes back to my comment on the federal government. So we've got written into this law this opportunity to try to give licensures to the more disenfranchised or disadvantaged folks within this statute. And it's not we're not alone. This isn't something that's novel. However, at the same time, the federal government, by still having it be illegal, no FDIC insured institution can lend money for a business whose sole purpose is to sell THC. So you see that's part of the federal scheme. I mean, they're tying all of this up in
Can't
one
they
another.
technically come in and seize all the money at the FDIC insured bank?
Well, they can certainly do a lot of different things that are unpleasant for that. Right? If it was found out that those funds were being utilized for that purpose. I mean, I suppose there are some credit unions that still would be outside of those regulations. But there's not as many credit unions as there once was. Back in the '80s, for example. But yeah, that's another issue. And certainly for anyone, like I said, that's what I'm saying. The likelihood of someone being able to come here and put in this type of business in a smaller rural area is unlikely because of the cost of of overcoming the regulations and the fact that they have to have the capital, they have to have the money, they can't just go borrow it from someone.
Okay, we cool? We can move on to the next one?
Just one more thing, Patrick.
Yes, sir.
Oh, go ahead.
Minnesota Adult Use Cannabis Bill Summary is what I found.
Yeah, that's not a bad place to start for people.
Localities could not ban cannabis businesses, but they could set reasonable rules and can limit stores to 1 per 12,500 people.
Right, and
Which is
That's why I was-
larger than our
I
county.
said I thought it was 12.5, but I wasn't 100% sure. But
Sorry.
yes, it's the same. Well, think of it. There's a line of cases regarding strip clubs or adult books that the Supreme Court dealt with back in the 70s and 80s, and under those types of cases, we certainly could restrict the location almost to the point of it being untenable for them to put the business in the locality, but not completely. I mean, and we go back to the same. I mean, from a Medellin standpoint, we go back to the same problem that we've been talking about forever, which is, well, there's not a lot of places somebody could put a business to begin with, and if we say then restrict the area in which that business could be created, the likelihood of someone being able to put that business in is zero or a number very close to zero.
But you can levy a 10% gross tax receipt, and that's in addition to the 6.875
Yep.
personal sales tax.
So
You can get something out of it.
yeah, I call it fixing potholes. Oh come on, that's overused. You have to see a name like that on the internet.
So we could just put like a 1 mile radius around an elementary school.
Well, yeah, you could. Well, how about just the? You couldn't. You couldn't build it within a certain. You put some of these place and manner restrictions in, and like I said, make it almost impossible.
Well, that's what they did with bars and everything, and that's still going on to this day.
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll move on if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah.
All right. The ESST policy, the earn, sick, and safe time. Article 9 of the personnel policy. Due to the law changing and needing to approve and implement this policy on January 1st, 2024, the council will need to approve this policy tonight. Staff is working on the personnel policy, and I was going to wait until the whole thing was done to prove it all, but the union needs that section approved and sent off to the union. So that's what we'll be doing tonight, is approving that policy. Okay. Resolution 2024-03 authorizing the City of Madelia Fire Department to make application to and accept funds from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, for equipment on vehicles for the district's purchase. Steve Fisher and John Turney are here tonight to explain this grant that we are intending on doing.
So it's a grant, not a loan?
We are doing the resolution to make application and to accept funds. It is a grant. But we have to do a resolution, so
Got
in
it.
case
No, I'm
we
tracking. I'm
would.
just like, if it's a grant, let's go.
Yeah, but we have to pay for a grant writer. And so Ryan and John are here tonight to
okay.
kind of explain everything, what's going on.
It's the same grant we've applied for the last 2 years. We're just doing it again. We're in desperate need of PPE, and so this will be our 3rd year doing it. The nice thing is FEMA, a couple of things I think working in our favor. First thing is FEMA has made this a priority this year. The second thing is that this is actually the grant writer, Nick Ruby, when he was here with the truck. Through discussion, this is the grant writer Nick Ruby found. It's a new grant writer. This grant writer, and I think Chris would probably agree to what Chris has talked about, seems to really be passionate about it, and he's asking a lot more questions than the last grant writer did, so he seems to be a lot more involved with it. And so we're just doing it again. He's half the price too of the previous one, but he's also more local. He actually came and looked at our stuff.
Just for my edification,
Yep.
what's the cost of the grant writer?
It's only $600.
And we actually don't have to pay for it until it's actually submitted.
Yeah. But it's a cost that we can't really afford otherwise. But it's so the NFPA, which is just the standard for firefighting equipment, says that our gear should be replaced every 10 years. Our gear is now, majority of it's going on 13 years, so we're over that. That would be a concern, if OSHA came in. We have a plan in place. We've been replacing it as needed, but We are over that, but our biggest thing is our self-contained breathing apparatus. We replaced that 15 years ago. The lifespan on that's 15 years. But when we replaced it 15 years ago on our last grant, we purchased it as a deal that was already old then in terms of the technology. And so it's really, in terms of technology, over 15 years. So that needs to be replaced as well. So we have guys going through school right now, as you guys know, and we're having problems. And then we just had MES come Monday, and 8 of our units were out of service for repair. And so that's really a bad position to be in terms of that. But the cost for both of these things, if we were to have to do it ourselves as a city, would be over $300,000. So we really need this grant. But this is our third year applying for it. The first 2 years were denied. I think that's a mix of not being a huge focus for FEMA, but also probably not having the right grant writer in place. So we're going for it again.
For the record, do the simple math on that. $600 for a grant writer to get $300,000.
Well, we are responsible for 5% of that. But yeah, it's still $15,000. Or I was hoping you could do the simple math on that. What is the simple math on that? But it'd be 15.
Well, 10% would be $30,000.
Which we do have. We've been putting that aside so that we do have it in our capital fund.
You're talking $45,000.
It would be 15,000. 300,000. 5% would be 15,000.
So I thought you said 15%.
No,
5%? Yeah. Okay. Disregard.
So
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna apply for it again. I think it should hopefully be this year. There should be no reason. It's an unfunded mandate, unfortunately. It's only a guideline is what NFPA does, but OSHA really kind of holds us to that. So, but it's kind of an unfunded mandate. But there's no way small towns can afford doing that. So,
Yeah.
so here we go. We're doing it again.
Okay. The next thing is Resolution 2024-04, accepting a donation to the City of Madelia from the Relief Association. This would be a purchase of a trailer for the side-by-side. John, you want to give a little insight on that?
The Relief Association decided to purchase a trailer, just because we did have a call earlier this year where it went a little bit further than what it should have. And it's unsafe to drive that amount of distance. So we decided to purchase a trailer to transport it to and from scenes.
Okay, I'm going to throw in one more thing in here, and that's an added agenda item. The fire department has discussed at their last meeting to get rid of the rescue van, which is a 1991 Ford L7000, and they would like the council to deem that surplus so they can put it on mid-bid to sell. Does anybody have any questions? If anybody wants to take a good look at it, it's sitting outside, right outside back here, and maybe want to...
Good utility van for like Christensen Communication.
Yeah, maybe.
We purchased that
no
7
place to
years
put
ago
it.
from Aiken Fire Department. We purchased that used then. We had discussion about keeping or not keeping it as a department. We discussed it actually a while ago. And when we purchased the new fire truck, we don't want the hall to become overcrowded. And so the thing is that we decided that if we could fit everything in the current trucks we have, we would get rid of it. And so it was determined that we could fit everything in there. It was a department vote. And we decided that it was time to move that up the road. We just simply didn't use that truck.
It was 1991?
Yeah. Don't know what it'll bring. We purchased it for $12,000, and that was 8 years ago. I don't know really what it'll bring, but we didn't use it much anyway. So.
Okay, so that's an added agenda item for tonight. Okay, anything else that I'm missing from the fire department? Did I hit on everything? Or anything else you want to chat about for the fire department? Tickets are for sale or anything like that?
Tickets. Do we want any more money?
It's your
We
opportunity.
do have a township meeting coming up. It would be really nice to have city council there as well. Go for that. In the past, we haven't always had city council, but it's where the township comes and the city council come. It'd really be nice to have city council there as well. But
So I will be there. I just need to know when and where.
It is on your schedule on the second page of your agenda. It should be February.
Not on my calendar?
It's February 27th at 6:30.
yeah, we won't have a meeting before then, but it's just a time where we talk about the upcoming year. This year won't be too much to talk about, but it is a joint fire department, but it's nice to see how that all comes together. So
And that will be here?
I would appreciate it. So.
Okay. So let's see. Number 5, our last thing on our workshop agenda tonight is a public hearing for the sale of Lot 4, Block 5 of Riverview Heights Edition. That needs to be declared tonight. This is the lot that has the playground equipment on it. This lot was never designated as a park. This is a buildable lot. The playground equipment will need to be removed off the lot. The playground equipment was looked at to see if the equipment is in good condition. The equipment is not in good condition and not ADA compliant. Tonight, the council will approve setting a public hearing for the sale of the lot on February 26, 2024 at 5:30. Proposed thoughts of purchasing a new playground equipment, finishing the sidewalk and planting grass on the outlot on Block 5 with the proceeds from the sale needs to be discussed tonight. This will also be discussed at next EDA meeting on February 26th. But I did put a map in there just to kind of outline or show you what outlot I'm talking about. This is from Beacon, and Beacon hasn't been updated, but Design Home Centers built 2 houses, and the one house is not there. It's this little lot on the corner.
When you say the proceeds from the sale need to be discussed, what do you mean?
The proceeds from the sale of Lot 4
Yes?
would be designated towards a piece of playground equipment
Okay,
and for establishing the sidewalk around that corner, and then possibly a tree or 2 planted.
I just want to make sure I was clear on that. Thank you.
Good. Well, we'll always have outlot A, because the other thing too is I want you guys to all understand that it's outlot A. I know when we went through numerous public hearings, it did not sound like anybody wanted to dedicate anything as a park per se. So it's still outlot A. So
From what I talked to somebody out there, and they said when I brought up the whole park issue, they sounded like they didn't want a shelter of some sort that could be rented out is what they didn't want. The person I talked to said that they would like and feels that it would be needed out there, a park of some sort, but just not like something you rent out to
A playground.
a playground.
Yes.
A playground.
So what I'm proposing to the council tonight is then pretty much in line with replacing the playground equipment, putting up a couple trees, making that outlot on the corner attractive. However, if you do dedicate that outlot A as a park, it stays a park. That's the only thing.
Is there any minimum amount of property that we have to have?
Mm-mm. But if it stays outlot A, then at any point, the stuff can be removed and it can be sold.
So are we gonna do some sort of publication for the residents that live out there to
Once
come
you
and voice their
guys,
opinion?
once you guys schedule the public hearing tonight, the notices will go out to all, and I just want to clarify this. This is not, I do not need to send this notice out. But I know in the past, when there's been a public hearing that involves Riverview Heights, We have sent it to all the property owners out there. But again, by state statute, I am not obligated to do this, but I am doing it just to be nice. And to inform them that what is going on out there.
So based on what I'm looking at right now, that really reframes that area in a very nice way and puts that park in a really good place, I would argue.
And that was the whole point when we replotted all of those lots. So please think about this, discuss with any residents out there, because we will be bringing it up at the EDA meeting, next council meeting, and that's when we will actually decide. And I do have a sale catalog in my office in regards to the playground equipment. So if anybody wants to take a look, if anybody has any ideas. But they're all within that $20,000 mark, so that's kind of why. And there's the smaller equipment, not the big, huge, elaborate things, but they're in the sale catalog, and they would fit nicely on that property.
And the location is good.
It really wouldn't cost anything from the taxpayers because it would just go from the sale of the lot right to the equipment.
That's what I'm proposing, is that the proceeds would then go to developing that lot.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Better framed. That was my question. I didn't just frame it as well as you just did. That was my question.
So, so the other thing, just like we did with the rescue van, is another agenda item tonight would be then to deem the park equipment that's already out there as a surplus, and that will go on mid-bid to sell. It'll go on mid-bid as is, and I believe that, I'm not sure when the bidding date is done, but it's as is in that they have to remove it. We will not touch it, whoever does buy it.
Just so you know, too, there is a $50 minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So like if it
They
doesn't
get
sell
their
for more than
commission.
$50, they take the whole $50.
Mm-hmm.
Are we on the hook to do anything special for putting that equipment there? Does it have to be ADA compliant? Does there have to be handicap accessibility?
And until, I mean, I can look that up. I can get that all, if you're talking about a pad and everything like that.
Well, I'm thinking if we're going to put the sidewalk in, we'll probably have to put in ADA compliant ramps to the parcel.
Well, all the curbs out there.
Or drive over curbs.
That doesn't make any difference.
Okay, I know what you're talking about, like for them to get up to the property from the street.
Right.
Yeah, okay,
Even the drive over curb usually isn't ADA compliant.
okay.
2% grade or 4% grade. It's pretty shallow. But anyway, I'm just wondering if we're on the hook for that. In all actuality, it might make more sense to.
To be honest with you, there isn't, when you look at that lot, you know, like a block is a block, you know, square edges or whatever. This doesn't have square edges. We're gonna have to make some inlets somewhere anyways.
Right.
So I think that it would be in our best interest to actually make it an inlet onto that property.
It might be.
Mm-hmm.
It also might be, worth a conversation with the people up there to see if it's actually worth doing it and maybe looking at
That's why I'm bringing it up today.
just
so it's
eliminating it
out.
completely and selling out Lot A with the adjacent lot as a bigger lot if possible.
And I know that has been brought to my attention from previous owners that they wanted to purchase Outlot A. So that is another thought, but then,
Because I would look and see what we're actually on the hook for, because we might be on the hook to make it, even if it's not a designated park, the installation of the playground equipment might require it to be handicap accessible.
mhm.
And if that's the case, I don't think you're going to be doing it for $20,000.
I didn't think we were doing any, we do have extra funds from other sales within
Sure.
the EDA, but I'm just getting it out there to think about it.
Right.
And you have some really valid questions, Andy. please put them in an email to me so I can get all of that. If you guys got any questions, thoughts, so when we come back to the table in 2 weeks that we're on, kind of know a little bit more.
So I think we're talking about two different problem sets here. The first one is the ADA compliance. The second is, do they want to park up there or not? I think the second question is an easy kill. Personally, if I lived up there, I don't, but if I did, I'd want to park. So then, to your point about the ADA compliance, we just have to make sure we go through those wickets.
Well, the other thing is maybe you want to park, but what's your spending? You know what I mean? You want to park up there if it's going to cost you $250,000?
Yeah,
Maybe you designate it as a park, because once you do, you can't take it back.
I'm
But
just,
the residents up there are not going to pay for it alone.
So, we can beat the dead horse at the public hearing.
Right.
But I think that's what Chris is saying.
I'm just saying I'm getting out there. You guys get your brains working and you send me your questions so we can put it all together. Or what different ways we have to approach it if it's, you could be in conversation down the street and they absolutely oppose it. I'm just bringing ideas to everybody's attention.
So my point is, nobody up there is going to oppose it, but I understand his point.
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm
Because there
wrong.
was quite a bit of opposition the last time we put that playground equipment
Really?
up there. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's why I'm starting early and working into this so we can work out all the bugs and understand what we're getting ourselves into. Okay? All right. We can talk about it more or else we can close the workshop.
I'd entertain a motion to close the workshop.
I make a motion, we close the workshop.
I have a motion.
I second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.
We can hang out for a little bit.
Go down rabbit holes and beat dead horses.
Very good. Euphemisms are my favorite.
But if I don't bring it up, you know what happens.
Next, you're next. I'm next. Yeah. Chris, you need you to, it's nothing emergent, it's stressful.
You want me to come in there now?
His kids, they still walk down there, they sit down there. So, and he feels like there's like things that he sees people walk. The kids that hold it up. And his thing was, is they didn't want the curb on that, you know. He said, he did what? To do. Like a birthday party or rent out the shelter.
Yeah, we're gonna call it.
Shit called it back. It's not.
Excuse me.
Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it, Colonel?
Yep.
I thought they could make a local pot distributor, it could be CCCTHC.
CCCTHC. Hey, and then if you buy the old fire department rescue van, you could make your mobile
We had mobile pot.
mobile pot.
Yeah. We're renovating our conference room right now, so maybe we put it into a,
You could call
instead of
the
an
van the
information
oven.
technology center, we make it the pot room.
You could call the van the oven, and you could drive around, people could get paid.
Just thinking what you could offer at the theater.
There you go.
THC infused brownies.
Holy
Instead of the normal ice cream truck sound.